Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that film clip right there. And by the way, I want to say a big thank you to Kay, who is doing all that film work and putting those together for us. Here's a thought that I want to give to you. Is this the first time in Bible history that somebody has given up on all their stuff and given it away for food? No, not hardly. In the story of Jacob and Esau, Esau was just famished to death, and he gave away his birthright for a bowl of pottage, or what we think might have been stew during that time. A story like this, very similar in circumstances, has happened in the Bible. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. But where does this problem come from? Why is it that Edmund was so willing to turn on his brother and sisters in order to become the prince, and he could be over them? Well, the problem is a heart condition, and it goes all the way back to the original sin. When I mean original sin, I'm talking about the sin that is in the Garden of Eden. Yep, it goes back that far. Because you see, something was placed within man that he wanted to be in control of everything round about him, in control of nature, in control of other people. We're seeing that with all kinds of issues today. People want to rule over top of other people, have the power to be able to control their lives and to lord over top of them. It happened in the Garden of Eden. It started right there, and to this very day, men are still trying to do that. That's the whole point of enslaving other people, is to be able to lord over top of them, to be able to have control over top of even nature. If you remember, the thing that ultimately surprised the disciples was the fact that Jesus had control over the wind and water. Remember the story? He was out on the boat. There was waves crashing all about them. They were trying to get on the shore, and Jesus was asleep in the boat. Finally, one of them says to him, "Master, wake up. Don't you care that we perish?" And what did Jesus do? He went back to the back of the boat, and he spoke to the wind and the waves, and he said, "Peace, be still." And the wind and the waves obeyed him. So much so, it scared the disciples, so much so that they said to one another, "What manner of man is this, that even the wind and the waves obey him?" Well, ultimately, man has been searching for that kind of power within themselves. They want to be able to do the same thing. In other words, man wants to be God. And this has been a problem for all time. It goes all the way back to the garden. Because remember what Satan said, the serpent, to Adam and Eve. God knows that you will not surely die, but rather the day that you eat of this fruit, you will become like him, knowing the difference between good and evil. Basically, being like God. And so man has tried this ever since. Basically, it's what's at the very core of what we're fighting currently in our culture, when people cannot even admit what is a boy, what is a girl, what is a man, what is a woman. The reason for that, the whole thing behind it, when you get right down to the very pit, the very bottom, you can't go any lower. The bottomest reason to it is because they want to be like God. God set up the difference between man and woman. God is the one who created. If man can muddle all that up, then he can be like God. And yet the point, we can't. Think about other things in Scripture where people try to take control of things that they just absolutely can't take control of. You had Abraham, who tried to take control of when the prophecy was going to be fulfilled. Remember? By taking, instead of having relations with his own wife, he decided to take a concubine and take things and matters into his own hands and have a son that way instead of waiting for God's promise. Have we ever done anything like that? Have you ever done anything like that instead of waiting for God? You see, in James chapter 1 and verse 14, it says that we are led away by the desires of our hearts. That's where temptation starts. And we have to watch out for temptation. For Edmund, the temptation was the Turkish delight, and if she had the power to make that Turkish delight, then when she said that she had the power to make him a prince, well, she must have been able to do it. And he wanted that power. He wanted what he wanted so bad that he was willing to give up on his brother and sisters in order to get what he wanted. In fact, she later calls him a traitor. And ultimately, when we go off into sin and we forget God's way, isn't that what we are? We're traitors to God's way. Well, that's going to be it for me this week. Continue on to the next slide. I have some questions there for you, things to ponder, to do some real soul searching over. Use those for the rest of the week to do devotional work. Pray over them. A little bit of Bible spading. Find some scriptures. I'll give you all those details over on the next sheet. God bless you, and I'm looking forward to being with you next week for week number 5. Until then, God bless. Take care.